Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Reveal Report. We thank you for joining us on this Friday, the 13th. Very interesting date. But today we're not getting into dates or numerology. Well, not in the way you might think. But we're going to touch on a very interesting topic called divination. What exactly is divination? What is it? How do people do it? How long has it been around? Quite a long time. I want to say thank you to James, Black Hats, and so many others that are here supporting. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. We're almost there, folks. We're almost at that 40,000 mark. I want it to be by the beginning of January, but I'll take it by the end of January. I'll take it. We're about 1,000 or so off. And it's a big milestone for me because it means a lot. Oh, thank you, Stacy. I appreciate that. And all of you from around the world, you know, from South Africa, the Ozarks, parts of Canada, parts of Asia, just everywhere. I appreciate all the love and support. Also, don't forget to, give us a like, guys. Hit that thumbs up. And moving forward, all our shows, we want you to participate in the chats, but you need to subscribe in order to do so. Before we didn't do that, but we'd like you to subscribe and be a member of this great family as we discuss amazing things. So like, subscribe, share here on YouTube. Of course, you could also follow us on Twitter, almost 12,000 there. And we are on Telegram, almost 10,000 on Telegram. Wow, you guys are amazing. And we're also on Instagram. So again, the love, the support, it means a lot. And this year, I said it last week in passing, we're going to open up the doors and move a lot quicker and a lot harder with the information for you. No more laying back, guys. So if you were used to it soft and slow and guiding you through, it's time to really rev things up. So I want to get into divination, what it is. What is it about? What do we do? I'm going to bring on my co-host, Miss Jessie Czebotar. Jessie, how are you?
Hey, good, George. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for being here. And today we're getting into divination.
We are.
This goes back, Jessie. This goes way back. And actually, one of the first books that discusses divination, believe it or not, is this book here. Maybe you've seen it someplace before. It's an interesting book. It's called the Holy Bible.
I can't believe you're putting that up there, George, but it's true. It's the oldest book that speaks to this.
It's outlawed in many countries, believe it or not, to have this book. And just 100 years ago, the Vatican was burning Christians that were reading the Bible. That's the power that this book has. And one particular chapter in this Bible, Deuteronomy, and it's 18:10-11. It says, "Let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interrupts omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, who is a medium, spiritualist, or who consults the dead." That, ladies and gentlemen, is what is discussed in the Bible when it comes to divination. It's a very harsh, straightforward command. Divination. And for those who don't know, many think it's just communicating with the dead, but that's not the purpose of divination. The actual purpose of divination is to receive information from the other side. You're looking for information. You're not actually asking for help. You're not petitioning. You're not asking for a healing. No, you're asking for the future to be told. That's what you're asking, and you're communicating with the other side. Now, some people say, George, do ghosts really exist or demons? In that exact thing that I just read you from the Bible, it says, you shall not speak to the dead. You shall not speak to omens and spirits. So it does exist. There is something in the supernatural realm, and people are always looking for their edge of the future. Jessie, it could be lottery numbers, insane. It could be where they lost something, where they could find it, but it's usually about their future. And believe it or not, and I'm not picking one side or the other, it's mostly women that go to these fortune tellers to find out about their future life. On that note, please add a little bit of context to this unbelievable topic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Women tend to be more drawn to it. I've seen a lot of different forms, particularly with the tarot cards, the horoscopes, in the upper levels, they would use blood divination as well as dominoes. And crystals was another form of divination that would be used.
So it is used, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the first forms of divination is scrying. And in some past shows, I've made reference to scrying, usually with a black mirror, because that's a darker version.
Right.
But there's another way to scry, and that's through a crystal ball. And I want to play a clip, Jessie, and then we'll get into it a little bit more from a movie about the crystal ball. And take a look at this clip. It's very interesting because there's a lot of truth to it. So turn up your volumes, and here it is.
Sit down, please.
Some terrible things have happened to friends of mine. I want to know why they've happened and who is responsible. Can you help me?
4 of your friends have died.
Yes.
You want to know why?
Yes.
The crystal tells me they have desecrated the tomb of Katabi. You wish to know more?
Yes.
There are 2 other people. You are one of them.
I entered the tomb.
I see in the crystal.
Yes, tell me.
It is too horrible.
You mean I'm going to die?
In a few minutes from now. If you listen to me, I may be able to save you. But sit down first.
My first reaction was the old lady's just trying to take her money, George.
Well, I mean, yes, that is true. However, this is something that goes on a lot when it comes to fortune tellers.
Yeah.
Because they could actually put curses on you and hex you and bring bad things into your life. Then you pay money, certain amounts, for them to take those things off you, those hexes, that bad luck. They said they're going to protect you, just like she said in that movie. So this happens all over the world, and people go and they get suckered in, and it gets worse and worse and worse. I even looked at cases of swindling from psychics. And in Europe, you got to be very careful with these psychics, these traveling type of gypsies. I'm not putting gypsies in a box. I'm just saying it's a particular type of group that does this. The crystal ball goes back a little bit of a while as another form of scrying. And there are some in different museums and so forth. Show you a picture here. This is the typical person you would see, a medium, dressed in this type of all this gold, all this jewelry. Again, this comes from someone who travels, and all that gold and silver and jewelry comes from the different places of the world that they travel to. Understand? And then they scry, they look into this ball, and they communicate with a spirit. Now, a lot of it is fake. A lot of it is trickery and fun. Yes, that is true. But some of it is real. Careful what you wish for, because you're looking to communicate and speak to something to get information, and then you'll get it. For those who don't know, this crystal ball, also known as a crystal sphere or glass ball, is commonly known for fortune telling. Generally, more people have seen it in a lot of movies. It's been used in photography, but it's also known for clairvoyancy and scrying. And again, scrying is key because you have to look into it. It's almost like you're in a trance. And these spiritual bodies or demons or whatever connection you have with whatever demon is going to give you a vision when you're scrying, looking into that ball. And then you're going to petition whoever that is that you're asking for help to give you the information to tell the future. And Jessie, why is it so important? I just want to know that people want to know their future, or who they're going to get married to, or what their job, if they're going to get that dream job, or, what happened to their friend if something bad happened. I get it. Why do you think they do that?
I feel it's because people want an answer. They want closure. They're disturbed by things, or they're excited, and some of them pray, but they really don't have that relationship with God. So they continue to try to seek to know the answer. I think just for that piece of knowing.
Wow. I got to say, it is unbelievable. And, there's a lot of crystal balls in different museums around the world. There is one particular ball that lies in Scotland that is said to have been the originally possessed by pagan druids. They owned it. They used it. They did scrying with it. So druids, this goes back to even the druid days.
Mm-hmm.
This crystal ball method of divination, finding out the future. But there's so many different ways that, we would need a whole show just to discuss how many different ways.
Right. Yeah.
Another way you might see possibly in hoodoo, in a lot of films, and it's called bone throwing or bone reading, bone throwing, bone reading. And what they'll do is they'll have different bones. And I've actually seen this done, and it's thrown to either on the floor or in a basket. And the witch or voodoo princess, whoever that may be, will read the future and what the spirits are communicating with them. This literally actually happens. Question 1, where are those bones from? And are they communicating with the spirit of that person's bones? Is it human bones or is it animal bones? And how do you go about doing this? This actually exists. It really happens.
Yeah.
And it's called scrying. Jessie, are you aware of any of this or heard about this type of scrying with the bones, throwing it into the basket and trying to read their future?
Yeah. There were individuals that I knew that it was common practice to keep, usually it was like a fingertip of some sort would be where the bone was from. And, they valued those that came from certain ancestors, and they would call on their ancestors to help divine things through that, the way the bones laid and things like that. So I am familiar with that and have witnessed that myself as well.
And that's just one form of scrying. It's called divination, ladies and gentlemen. Another form is dowsing with rods.
Yeah.
That was the first form of actual divination that I learned. I believe it was with the rods, where you would hold them and then they'll turn and you'll ask questions. They'll move back and forth. Some people look for it, but use that actually to find gold and metal.
Or water.
Or
It's
water,
supposed to be
correct.
used for water, yeah.
Yes. So these rods are another version of scrying, where you would ask questions. And if there was something spiritual in the air, something close to you, if you're reaching out, then they would answer with that going a certain way. It's another form of scrying. Now, someone in the chat mentioned tea leaves. Very, very interesting that you mentioned that. And that is a way of scrying. It is divination. And I actually found a clip of that in a major movie because, again, it's all about indoctrination and teaching the youth about sorcery, magic, divination, communicating with the other side and opening up doorways. So let me show you this video clip from a movie that talks about divination. And the movie, you might actually know this movie. Take a look.
Welcome, my children. In this room, you shall explore the noble art of divination. In this room, you shall discover if you possess the sight. Hello, I am Professor Trelawney. Together, we shall cast ourselves into the future. This term, we shall be focusing on tessomancy, which is the art of reading tea leaves. So please take the cup of the person sitting opposite you. What do you see? The truth lies buried like a sentence deep within a book, waiting to be read. But first, you must broaden your minds. First, you must look beyond.
I knew that movie, but
she actually says we must look into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling you the purpose of divination is to communicate with those that can tell you the future. Tea leaves is another version of divination, and they have books on it and so forth. There's all kinds of ways, and apparently it's how the cup, how the leaves sit in different sections of the cup. You can read a person's future. It's fascinating. It's interesting, and it exists, and people do this. There are so many different ways to communicate with the other side because everyone wants to know their future. Another way, Jessie, is palm reading, where you'll sit there, and this is usually an older art. I mean, you're going to usually not see someone younger, but usually it's someone much older. It's passed on where they're able to read the lines in your hands and tell you about your life, your marriage, your success, and it goes on and on and on. And that's a different craft in itself, is palm reading, palmistry. Again, it's known, it's done all over the place. And when you go to different fairs and carnivals, they'll have different ways. Most of it is tarot card. That's usually the easier way for people to do that. We'll get into that. But palming is harder, and it's usually more of an older, ancient, passed on tradition. The tea leaves is not very easy, but some people specialize in that. Another one, and Jessie, I'm going to let you take the floor and shine some light on this, is lot casting. It's in the Bible. Maybe touch on that, Jessie. Explain to people, what are casting lots?
Yeah, so from my understanding, it was very similar to, we'll say, the bone divination, where they would use bones, or they would cut, a stick into pieces. Then they would, kind of like dice, they would drop them, roll them out. From my understanding, when they use sticks or bones, they would put different markings on them, usually occultic markings. And so as those items were thrown out, they would read the answers as they fell. Kind of like just a random, like if you had dice with numbers, they would be interpreting based on the formation and how things fell.
So there's with the lot casting, the casting of lots. It's mentioned several times in the Bible. Actually, it's one thing that God did not like whatsoever.
In the book of Jonah, they actually, the sailors, when Jonah runs from God and refuses to go deliver the message to Nineveh, a huge storm hits the ship, and the men on the ship knew that somebody had made God angry. So they began to cast lots to figure out who was the individual who had angered God, and the lots fell to Jonah.
It's, again, another form of divination. It's mentioned periodically in the Bible. Divination is used in many ways. I was into a little bit of divination, but I was more into spirit communication, which is very different because I wasn't looking for the future, but I was looking to get questions asked in communication. So I was dealing with a form of divination, but I wasn't looking at the future. I never petitioned in that, but I was looking for that. And then there's manifestation.
Mhm.
And that's something completely different. That's something that you want, that you desire, that you need to have. So
Yeah. The US military, when I was in there, they use the same thing with some of their projects, especially Looking Glass, where they start off and, they're training you to, um, I'll say use surfaces. So it's kind of similar to using a mirror or, um, you know, could say a crystal ball, but it would be water or other forms of a surface. And, you would look until you were having a vision, and they were seeking, both intel as well, particularly intel about the future, and they would document everything that the children saw in those visions. So very interesting.
divination is so dangerous. And because you're taking yourself off a path that the Lord has put you on to change that path. So if you believe in the Lord and in the supernatural and you're going against it, how are you supposed to be helped if you're going against the grain?
Right.
Again, it's perplexing, but people do. Now, some people, Jesse, they believe it's harmless fun. You go to a fair, it's Halloween, you're walking by the store and you're shopping, and all of a sudden you'll see, medium, psychic, come on in. And you go in, and there it is. They're giving you information, they're communicating. Again, I will agree, a lot of it is fake to take your money. Yes, it is. They're not really communicating. But the doorway is left open. And the fact that you participated in it, yet you know what's wrong, don't go in. I'm going to share another video clip from a movie that has to do with tarot cards. Again, interesting, very interesting. So take a look at this. Here it is.
The spirits are here, and yes, they want to talk to you. Okay. I want you to shuffle these twice and then cut them 3 times facing me. Relax your minds and bodies and be open to his presence.
We want to find out how he died.
They want to find out how. So they're seeking the supernatural to get that information, which is wrong. And if you've just joined us, I'll read it to you again. In Deuteronomy 18:10-11, let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, that interrupts omens, engages in witchcraft, or casts spells, or who is a medium, spiritualist, or who consults with the dead, consults, asks questions, or is a medium. So let's talk about that for a second, Jesse. Mediums who communicate with the other side. Apparently, in Deuteronomy, it says that's wrong. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, all throughout Scripture, the Lord says that it's wrong. And even in Isaiah 3, 17, he gives, a very harsh warning to the daughters of Zion because they were engaging in practices of divination and different forms of sorcery and witchcraft. And it says, therefore, the Lord will smite the head with baldness, O daughters of Zion, and Jehovah will lay bare your secrets. So it's something that, you know, all throughout the book of Isaiah, the Lord literally uses the terminology of, lifting up the skirts to expose the nakedness that, like that of an adulterous woman. That's how angry this made God.
So, tarot cards. This is a newer practice in the point where they didn't have these cards in the Bible days. They were using the lots that they would throw and then other things. This came on later on as a practice, but it's very interesting, these tarot cards. Again, some people do it for fun. They think it's entertaining and so forth. But there is a danger in many ways because some people take this seriously. And those in the occult, very high up, know this. We're going to talk about the creation of these tarot cards on certain days. Sometimes some, not all, are made on certain days on certain moons. A blood moon, a new moon. And a spell is cast upon these cards. And it could be one of the 72 generals of Lucifer's army. And then whoever would read from these cards would in turn give up their territory to this particular demon, because this is one way of them taking over dominion of you and the land and where it is. They do battle in the supernatural realm. Now, this sounds wild, and I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but there are witches and warlocks who put spells on certain decks and cards. They're made on certain days because they want to give it real truth. They want them to really work. Talk about that for a moment, Jessie.
Definitely. My family line, I'll say on my grandfather's side, that great-grandmother was very skilled with tarot cards, and would use those. And then, in the system, when I first was being tested and stuff, they sent me through 7 different teachers who all read the tarot and stuff, and were terrified by what they had seen. And then also, when they tried to use them around me, they wouldn't work. So from that point on, they banned me from being in any rooms where they were using them. But so they do really work.
I want to clarify that for those that missed it. When you were young and they came to you, these are witches, yes, Jessie?
Yes. Yep.
They
would use the tarot cards to divine the future and to see what was if you were chosen for the right position and stuff.
So they would read these cards in front of you to try and get a sense of who you are, what you're about, what you're going to do, and so forth. So they actually use the cards for you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so you understand it and you know where it comes from. But you said in the story that later on, they never read them around you again.
Correct. Yep. Because after that time of testing, the Lord would make it so that they couldn't get any answers out of the tarot cards.
Or possibly send them a warning to scare them, possibly.
Right. That it very well was a warning. So
a lot of people, and they're here. They're here. They're watching the show. They're a part of it. We want this information to get out there. And I could understand that perspective of very innocent people. Some people here are not religious at all. They're just regular people that are fascinated with some of the topics we talk about. And I appreciate you guys being here. And some of them will go to Halloween parties and events and they'll see a psychic, in a fair. And, it's not going to hurt. And they're going to sit there and, they're going to pay their $10 or whatever it is and try to get a reading. A lot of it, like I said, is fake. And they're doing it to make a couple extra bucks. They'll have the whole outfits on and the music and the background. But some of them are the real deal. I personally have participated in tarot cards, and I've dealt with mediums, and I've dealt with gypsies and all this. So I participated in it. One was very good. One I can tell was the real deal. Absolutely. And on that note, I'll share another story of a medium. I used to be in the paranormal, supernatural, because I was fascinated with communication with the other side. And on a particular case that I was on, which was in a abandoned or a shut down prison, actually, we were there at night. We gained access, and we were on the nurses' hospital ward. On that ward, there was a medium with us. And I didn't want to put too much credence into this medium, but the medium started to say that there is a nurse here. I was like, come on, there's a nurse here. And the nurse thinks that she's still alive. And I was like, what? And she goes, yes. And she thinks that this boy here, that's the supervisor of the floor, that was our tour guide, is wanting to do something with her. And the medium said, no, stop. You're not alive. You have to leave. And at that moment that she said that, there was a massive screech, a huge sound through the hall. I was perplexed. I said, it can't be, because I need proof of everything. So I started to flash my camera. And I took pictures. I asked everybody, and we were about 12 of us, I believe, 8 to 12 people. No one spoke. Did anyone hear anything? And they said, yes, they did. They heard a screaming sound. Later on, at looking at these pictures, Jesse, one of them I found had an outline of a woman wearing a nurse cap and a nurse shirt with that thing. I actually have the picture. I didn't post it here. I'm saving it for my book when I release it. But I have a lot of that type of evidence. I'm telling the story because it was the medium that opened up that doorway. It was the medium that was the conduit. It was the medium that allowed that supernatural power to communicate with our side. So it was that medium. And when it comes to mediums, it's hard to just be born and get it. It's usually generational, and it's passed on through the blood. Just to maybe talk about generational gifts. They call it the gift, by the way, of being a medium.
Yeah. I think it really has to do with the contracts and the covenants that bloodline families make with these demons throughout the generations. And, you have some, depending on the level of spirit that they make the contracts with, will, signify what level of intel you're getting. And, so I think that plays a big difference in that, it has to do with that familiar spirit. And usually it will be very picky, whatever spirit it is. Like if it wants to follow all the women in the line, it's just going to be transferred from all the women. Sometimes they'll even skip generations and, go from grandmother to granddaughter, things like that. So that's what I've seen.
Sorry, I'm just typing to someone here in the chat to help them explain. So I gotta say, Jesse, that this whole mediumship, this power of the medium, some of them are real. Some of them have that power to communicate with the other side. I witnessed it. I saw it. And I was shocked. And I don't put a lot of currency on mediums, but some of them are the real deal. And it is usually generational. And you usually see it when you're a child. Usually young children will have a very open eye. They could see things. They're scared to tell their parents, or they could tell if someone's in the room, if something's happening. So if parents out there are watching this and you believe that your child is gifted, that's what they say. They have a gift. They call it a gift. Some people say it's a curse, and they're able to communicate or see something on the other side. It's dangerous because they end up keeping that. And sometimes their life goes on a different pathway.
Yeah.
The moral, I believe, of this show, Jesse, divination, is everyone is looking for answers. Everyone is looking for the future and what they can do to better it or guide it in a different direction. So they go to spirits, mediums, psychics, and they conduct divination, tarot cards. Now that you know, it's not fun. It is dangerous. You should not communicate with a medium. You should not do palm reading, divination of any kind, including tarot cards or tea leaf reading, because it's specifically in Deuteronomy, and I say that a little incorrect, I apologize, Deuteronomy 18, 10, 11, which I read twice, not to do it. So if you do it, then you're going against what the Lord has put forth. The only time we technically should be dealing or communicating with these demons is doing what Jesus did, which is him and the apostles casting out demons from the body, from doing deliverance and exorcism and sending them into Sheol. That should be our only reason to communicate with these beings. So there's no need to go to a medium. There is no need to look into divination. There is no need to find out your future because all the answers are in front of you. And that's in God Almighty. God is your answer. Why would you pay to go to a medium when all you have to do is take a private space by yourself, take a moment, and have a word with the Lord? I don't understand it. I understand it today because I came from that side. So I can tell you, you'll get a lot further with a prayer from the Lord than you will from a medium. I want to share a quick video clip from a very famous actor some of you are very aware with. And he gave a speech that I thought was moving. And it had good moral background. It had a good meaning to it. And it was very inspiring. So this is a quick speech. It's about 2 minutes from Denzel Washington. Take a look.
Number one, put God first. Put God first in everything you do. Everything that you think you see in me, everything that I've accomplished, everything that you think I have, and I have a few things, everything that I have is by the grace of God. Understand that. It's a gift. 40 years ago, March 27th, 1975, it was 40 years ago, just this past March, I was flunking out of college. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I hope none of you can relate. I had a 1.7 grade point average. I was sitting in my mother's beauty shop. They still call it beauty shops now? What they call it now? Yeah, I was sitting in the beauty parlor. I was sitting in my mother's beauty parlor, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I see behind me this woman under the dryer. And every time she looked up, every time I looked up, she was looking at me, just looking me in the eye. And I didn't know who she was, and I said, she said, somebody give me a pen, give me a pencil, I have a prophecy. March 27, 1975, she said, boy, you are gonna travel the world and speak to millions of people. Now mind you, I was flunked out of college. I'm thinking about joining the army. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and she's telling me I'm gonna travel the world and speak to millions of people. Well, I have traveled the world, and I have spoke to millions of people. But that's not the most important thing, the success that I had. The most important thing is that what she taught me and what she told me that day has stayed with me since. I've been protected, I've been directed, I've been corrected. I've kept God in my life and has kept me humble. I didn't always stick with him, but he always stuck with me. So stick with him in everything you do.
I didn't always stick with him, but he always stuck with me.
Powerful
So
words.
stick with God. Jesse, as we sign off, reminding everybody to please give us a like, share this, And remember, you don't need divination. You just need to give God a moment of time. And I'm sure he'll give you discernment and help you go where you need to go. All right. As we sign off, Jessie, tell us, where can people find you and how can they contribute to your ministry?
Absolutely. I just did some great shows actually this past week on my kingdomlivingwithjessie.com. And we talk about idols in the pantry, and we walk through some great steps on confession. So if you've played with divination, played with tarot, and want to have that all cleaned up, I encourage you to catch those episodes because the process for cleaning out that pantry is the same. You can also catch me on illuminatethedarkness.com and on patreon.com.
There you go. And guys, right after this, we're going to do a special roundtable Q&A, where if you have any questions and you would like them answered, all you got to do is subscribe to my Patreon, and we do a special roundtable. You're able to ask me or Jessie any questions you'd like. It's a very entertaining hour, and it goes in so many different directions. So please join us, support, watch the Patreon channel, and it's in the description below if you'd like to join. I thank you all for watching. I appreciate all the love and support. And if there's anything you could do to help me do what I do every Friday here on YouTube, you could go to PayPal and send something to help it keep going. And of course, our Monday Intel show, we always do on Patreon, because some of the topics we discuss, of course, ain't always YouTube friendly. So again, we thank you all for watching. We appreciate all the love and support. We hope you have a great weekend. And if you can support, go to paypal.me/George Iceman. I'll put it in the description. That's paypal.me/George Iceman. I thank you all so much for watching. And if there's anything you want to add, Jessie?
Nope. I encourage people, have a great week.
Excellent. So thank you all for watching, everybody. Have a great weekend. Get outside, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, and give glory, praise, and thanks to God Almighty. Good night, everyone.